When God is aligning you for a loving relationship, something begins to shift, and at first you might not even notice it. When God is aligning you for a loving relationship, something begins to shift, and at first you might not even notice it. It doesn't usually happen all at once. It doesn't always come with flashing lights or some grand announcement. It begins quietly in the background, in the hidden spaces of your heart and life. You start losing interest in things that once satisfied you. You start recognizing patterns in yourself and in others that you used to overlook. You begin to sense that the people and places you once felt tied to no longer fit where you're going. And you may not understand it in the moment, but that's God at work. That's God rearranging things behind the scenes so that when the right person steps into your story, you'll be ready to see them, ready to receive them, and ready to love them with a heart that's whole. It usually happen all at once. It doesn't always come with flashing lights or some grand announcement. It begins quietly in the background, in the hidden spaces of your heart and life. You start losing interest in things that once satisfied you. You start recognizing patterns in yourself and in others that you used to overlook. You begin to sense that the people and places you once felt tied to no longer fit where you're going. And you may not understand it in the moment, but that's God at work. That's God rearranging things behind the scenes so that when the right person steps into your story, you'll be ready to see them, ready to receive them, and ready to love them with a heart that's whole. Because here's the truth. A healthy relationship is not built by accident. It's not luck. It's not just chemistry. It's alignment. And alignment doesn't happen without God's hand. Think about how He orders creation. The sun rises and sets on time. The ocean waves know their boundaries. The stars never collide out of chaos. Everything in the universe functions in harmony because God set it in order. And if He can align galaxies, don't you think He can align two lives? Don't you think He can bring the right person into your path at the right time? But in the same way that He carefully holds the universe together, He carefully holds your life together too. And sometimes that means He withholds what you want now to give you what you need later. Sometimes He'll close a door you desperately wanted open. Sometimes He'll let someone walk away even though you begged them to stay. Sometimes He'll allow the loneliness to linger, not because He's forgotten you, but because He's forming you. And if you can embrace that season, if you can trust Him through that process, you'll begin to see that every heartbreak, every disappointment, every delay was not wasted, it was work. You see, alignment starts with identity. Just before God gives you someone to love, He shows you who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, you'll attach yourself to anyone who gives you attention. You'll confuse being needed with being loved. You'll let someone else's approval determine your value. And God loves you too much to let you build your life on that shaky foundation. So He will lead you into seasons where you have to stand alone so you can discover that you are never truly alone. He will remind you that your worth is not up for negotiation. You are loved, chosen, and set apart not because of who accepts you, but because of who created you. And when you get that revelation, everything changes. You stop running after people who treat you like an option. You stop lowering your standards just to feel wanted. You stop mistaking toxicity for passion because you realize that love without respect isn't love, and attention without intention isn't commitment. You realize that when God aligns you with someone, it won't cost you your peace. It won't demand you to shrink who you are. It won't ask you to compromise your calling just to keep someone. But that alignment often requires waiting. And waiting is where most of us struggle, because waiting feels like wasted time. Waiting feels like being overlooked. Waiting feels like silence. And we live in a world that doesn't like to wait for anything. But God doesn't measure time the way we do. He doesn't see waiting as wasted. He sees waiting as preparation. The waiting is where He shapes your character. The waiting is where He teaches you patience. The waiting is where He teaches you how to love without conditions, forgive without bitterness, and trust without fear. And sometimes while you're waiting, He's working on the other person too. Maybe the person He has for you is still healing. Maybe they're still growing. Maybe they're still learning lessons that will one day make them a better partner for you. You may not see it, but God is aligning both of you at the same time in different places through different processes so that when your paths finally cross, you'll be ready to recognize each other. And let's be real, alignment doesn't just happen in a straight line. Sometimes it comes with detours. Sometimes it comes with mistakes. Sometimes it comes with seasons where you thought you had found the one only to realize you were holding on to the wrong one. And that can leave you broken, questioning God, wondering why He allowed you to go through so much pain. But what if the pain was part of the preparation? What if every heartbreak taught you something you needed to know about yourself, about love, about boundaries, about faith? What if the very thing you thought disqualified you is the thing that's equipping you to love deeper, stronger, and healthier than you ever could before? Because alignment isn't just about finding someone, it's about becoming someone. The kind of person who can love without fear. The kind of person who can stay committed when it gets hard. The kind of person who doesn't run at the first sign of conflict, but who leans in with grace and humility. The kind of person who isn't looking for someone to complete them, but for someone to complement them because they already know they are whole in God. And when that alignment begins to manifest, you'll notice it in subtle but powerful ways. Suddenly, the people who aren't meant for you don't attract you the way they used to. The games, the manipulation, the half-hearted love that once kept you stuck, it won't have power over you anymore. You'll crave honesty. You'll crave peace. You'll crave consistency. And then when the right person enters your life, it won't feel like striving. It won't feel like begging. It won't feel like wondering where you stand. It will feel like clarity. It will feel like peace. That doesn't mean it will be easy. God doesn't align you with someone to live in a fairy tale. He aligns you with someone to build something real. And real requires work. Real requires vulnerability. Real requires forgiveness. But here's the difference. When God is in it, the work doesn't drain you. It develops you. The challenges don't break you. They build you. The trials don't destroy you. They deepen your bond. Because love from God isn't about perfection. It's about purpose. And the purpose of that alignment is bigger than just your happiness. It's about kingdom impact. The person God brings into your life is not just meant to be your partner, but your teammate in the calling He has given you. They're meant to push you closer to Him, to remind you of His promises, to hold your arms up when you're too weak to keep fighting. They're meant to be an answer to prayer, not just for you, but for the generations after you. Because the alignment God brings isn't just for today, it's legacy. That's why the enemy will fight it so hard. That's why the closer you get to alignment, the more counterfeits may appear. That's why you'll be tempted to settle for close enough or good enough. But can I tell you something? Good enough is not God enough. Almost right is still wrong. And if you trust Him, if you hold out, if you keep your faith steady, God will bring you into something that no counterfeit can compete with. And when it happens, it won't just be about butterflies in your stomach. It will be about peace in your soul. It won't just be about attraction. It will be about foundation. It won't just be about falling in love. It will be about building love day by day with someone who's aligned with your purpose and your faith. So if you're waiting, don't quit. If you've been hurt, don't give up. If you've been overlooked, don't assume you've been forgotten. God is aligning you. He's aligning your heart. He's aligning your purpose. He's aligning your path. And when the time is right, what He has aligned will come together in a way that no person, no mistake, no delay can stop. And you'll see it. You'll see that the heartbreak was worth it. The waiting was worth it. The tears were worth it. Because in the end, the love He brings won't just heal you. It will honor Him. It will be a reflection of His grace, His faithfulness, and His perfect timing. So trust the process, trust the pruning, trust the waiting, because when God is aligning you for a loving relationship, it will happen not through striving, not through forcing, not through fear, but through faith. And when it does, you'll look back and say, God, I see it now. Every no led me here. Every delay brought me here. Every heartbreak prepared me for here. Thank you for aligning me for the kind of love only you could write. When God is aligning you for a loving relationship, one of the first things he does is remove what doesn't belong. And this part is often the hardest because we don't always see what God sees. We don't always understand why someone we cared for walks away, why a connection we thought was perfect suddenly falls apart, why a relationship we invested so much energy into ends without warning. From our perspective, it feels like loss. From God's perspective, it's protection, it's alignment, because he knows that not everyone can walk with you into the next season of your life. He knows that some people were only meant to be in your life for a chapter, not the whole book. And if you keep holding on to what was never meant to stay, you'll miss what he's trying to send. Think about it. How many times have you begged God to keep someone in your life, only to look back months or years later and thank him that he didn't answer that prayer the way you wanted? At the time, you couldn't see the manipulation. You couldn't see the lack of commitment. You couldn't see the cracks in the foundation. You were blinded by emotion, by attachment, by fear of being alone. But God, in his wisdom, saw the future. He saw the heartbreak you would face if you stayed. He saw the distraction it would cause to your purpose. He saw how it would drain your peace, your joy, your growth. So he removed it, not to punish you, but to protect you. And I know it doesn't feel good. Losing people never does. We were created for connection. So when that connection breaks, our natural reaction is to grieve, to question, to cling tighter. But sometimes what you're crying over was never meant to carry you into destiny. Sometimes the person you thought was the answer was really just the lesson. Sometimes the rejection you felt was really God's redirection in disguise. And here's the truth: God will not compete for your attention. If you're clinging to someone who is pulling you away from him, he will allow circumstances to separate you. Not because he's cruel, but because he refuses to let anything or anyone take his place in your heart. And until you learn to release what doesn't belong, you won't have the capacity to receive what does. Have you ever tried to carry something heavy while someone is trying to hand you something new? You can't grab what's being offered because your hands are full. That's what it's like when God is trying to align you with his best, but you're still holding on to what he's asked you to let go of. You want the new blessing, but you won't release the old burden. And God loves you too much to pour fresh wine into an old wineskin. He knows it will burst. He knows it won't last. So he removes what doesn't belong so that you'll be ready, empty-handed, but open-hearted to receive what does. And here's where trust comes in. Because in the moment, you may not see the bigger picture. You may only see what you've lost. You may only feel the sting of rejection or the ache of loneliness. But alignment always requires trust. Trust that if God removed it, it wasn't meant to stay. Trust that if it walked away, it couldn't carry the weight of your future. Trust that if it ended, it wasn't his best for you. And maybe you're in that place right now. Maybe you're in the middle of the removal season. Maybe people you thought would be in your life forever are gone. Maybe the relationship you built your hopes on has ended. Maybe you're standing in the aftermath of what feels like loss, wondering why God didn't let it work out. Can I remind you today that what feels like subtraction is often God making room for multiplication? What feels like an ending is often the beginning of something new. What feels like rejection is often divine redirection. God knows who belongs in your story. He knows who has the character, the commitment, the faith to walk with you. And he also knows who doesn't. So when he removes, trust him. When he closes the door, trust him. When he allows the goodbye, trust him. Because the God who removes is the same God who restores. The God who takes away is the same God who brings better. And one day, when the right person walks into your life and you feel the peace you never felt before, you'll look back and say, now I understand why that had to end. Now I see why God didn't let me settle. Now I know why He removed what didn't belong. So don't fear the removal. Don't fight the pruning. Don't cling to what God has already cut away, because every removal is preparation for alignment, and every goodbye is making space for God's best hello. When God is aligning you for a loving relationship, one of the most important things He does is bring healing first, because real love can't grow in a wounded heart. You can't build something lasting on top of broken pieces that haven't been mended. You can't carry yesterday's pain into tomorrow's promise and expect it to thrive. Healing has to come before love, because without healing, even the right person will feel like the wrong one, and even a healthy relationship will become heavy. So often we want God to give us love quickly. We pray for that partner. We long for that companionship. We crave that sense of belonging. But what we don't realize is that God, in His wisdom, knows we need restoration first. He knows that unresolved wounds from the past can sabotage the very thing we're praying for. He knows that if He were to give you someone now without healing you first, you'd bleed on them for cuts they never caused. You demand they fill voids they were never meant to fill. You place expectations on them that only God Himself can satisfy, and in the end, the relationship would crack under the pressure. That's why God takes His time with you. He doesn't rush the healing process. He lets you sit in seasons where you have to face yourself, where you have to confront your pain, where you have to deal with the disappointments and the betrayals you've been carrying. He allows those hidden wounds to surface so He can touch them, because what you don't reveal, He can't heal. And sometimes it feels uncomfortable. Sometimes it feels lonely. Sometimes it feels like God is withholding love. But really, He's preparing you for it. Healing is not just about forgetting what happened. It's about forgiving. It's about letting go of bitterness. It's about closing the doors to the past so you can open the doors to the future. It's about learning that your identity is not defined by who left, who hurt you, or who failed to see your worth. Healing teaches you that you were valuable before the heartbreak, during the heartbreak, and after the heartbreak, because your value has never been up for debate. It was sealed by the one who created you. And here's the truth: love doesn't fix pain. It exposes it. Love will bring out insecurities you didn't know you had. Love will reveal fears you thought were buried. Love will test the strength of your trust. And if you don't allow God to heal you first, those unhealed places will rise up and sabotage the blessing He sends. That's why He insists on healing before love. Because when you're healed, you can enter a relationship whole, not half. You can give from overflow, not emptiness. You can embrace love without fear of losing yourself in it. Have you ever noticed how people who rush from one relationship to another often end up repeating the same cycles? That's because the wound never got time to heal. The pain was only covered, not cured. And what happens when you cover a wound without cleaning it? It gets infected, it spreads, it affects everything around it. That's what happens when you enter love without healing. You carry infection into intimacy, and it poisons what could have been pure. But when you allow God to heal you, everything changes. You stop needing someone else to validate you. You stop seeking love out of desperation. You stop tolerating treatment that dishonors you. Because healing teaches you what love should and should not look like. Healing teaches you to set boundaries. Healing teaches you to walk away from what isn't love, even if it looks like it for a moment. Healing makes room for real love, the kind that uplifts you, the kind that grows you, the kind that mirrors God's heart for you. And maybe you're in that season now. Maybe you feel like love has passed you by. Maybe you've been wondering why you're still single, why nothing seems to work out, why every relationship seems to crumble. Could it be that God is still healing you? Could it be that He's protecting you from bringing old wounds into a new relationship? Could it be that He loves you enough to let you become whole before He allows someone else to walk into your life? Don't despise the healing. It may feel slow. It may feel lonely. It may feel like everyone else is moving ahead of you. But healing is the foundation of the love you're praying for. Because when you're healed, you won't push away the person God sends out of fear. You won't sabotage the relationship out of insecurity. You won't settle for less out of desperation. You'll be ready. And when love finally comes, it won't feel like a bandage. It will feel like a blessing. So let God heal you. Let Him touch the places no one else can. Let Him restore the parts of you that were broken. Because when the healing comes first, the love that follows will be stronger, healthier, and lasting. And you'll realize that every moment of healing was worth it, because it prepared you for the kind of love only God can align. When God is aligning you for a loving relationship, one of the clearest signs you'll notice is that peace begins to replace confusion. Because love that comes from God is not built on constant uncertainty. It is not a guessing game. It is not a roller coaster of mixed signals and half-hearted commitment. The kind of love God aligns for you will not leave you lying awake at night, questioning your worth, your place, or their intentions. It will not keep you living in anxiety, waiting for the next time they disappear or the next time they disappoint you. When God is in it, there is peace. Now, that doesn't mean everything will be easy. It doesn't mean you won't have disagreements, challenges, or moments of vulnerability. But even in the midst of those things, peace will anchor the relationship. You'll know where you stand. You won't feel like you're walking on eggshells. You won't have to keep replaying conversations in your head to figure out if you said the wrong thing. You won't have to beg for reassurance, because peace will speak louder than confusion ever did. Confusion is a tool of the enemy. It clouds your judgment. It makes you question your value. It makes you tolerate things you should never tolerate because you're too busy trying to make sense of something that was never meant for you in the first place. Have you noticed that confusion always comes with chaos? Where there's confusion, there's inconsistency. Where there's confusion, there are games. Where there's confusion, there is instability. And God doesn't build lasting relationships on instability. He builds them on peace. Peace doesn't mean the absence of problems. Peace means the presence of God in the middle of them. Peace means that even when life gets hard, you don't doubt the love you've found. Peace means that even when you don't agree on everything, you don't question each other's commitment. Peace means you don't have to wonder if they're for you, because their words and actions align to show you that they. And let me tell you, when you've been through enough counterfeit relationships, when you've endured enough confusion, when you've spent enough nights trying to decode mixed signals, peace feels like a miracle because it's different. It's steady. It's not based on how perfect you look that day or how well you performed. It's based on commitment, on character, on the kind of love that doesn't just speak but shows up. That's the kind of peace God brings when He aligns you with the right person. But here's where many of us get stuck. We get addicted to confusion. We mistake chaos for passion. We confuse butterflies with love. We convince ourselves that love must be dramatic to be real. And so when God sends us peace, it feels too calm. It feels too steady. We start to question it because we're used to relationships that made us anxious, not relationships that made us secure. But peace is not boring. Peace is not weak. Peace is strength under control. Peace is proof that God is present. Think about how Jesus calmed the storm on the sea. The disciples were panicking, afraid the boat would sink. And with one word, He spoke peace over the chaos. That's what God does in your relationships too. When He's aligning you, He speaks peace over the confusion. He removes the drama. He silences the insecurity. He clears the noise. And you realize you don't have to live in the storm anymore. You can live in the calm. And maybe right now you've been stuck in confusion. Maybe you've been wondering if someone really loves you, wondering if they're truly committed, wondering if you're enough. Maybe your heart has been caught in a cycle of questions with no answers. Can I tell you something that's constantly confusing? It's probably not God, because God is not the author of confusion. He is the author of. So when He aligns you with the right person, you won't be left wondering. You'll know not because it's perfect, but because it's peaceful. You'll know because you feel safe, not just loved. You'll know because you can breathe, not just survive. You'll know because peace will confirm what confusion once clouded. And when that peace comes, it will feel like home. It will feel like a deep breath after years of holding it in. It will feel like finally being seen, finally being valued, finally being secure. That's the gift of God's alignment. Peace that replaces confusion, clarity that replaces doubt, and love that doesn't just stir your emotions but steadies your soul. When God is aligning you for a loving relationship, one of the most powerful shifts you'll experience is the realization that purpose matters more than feelings, because feelings, as strong as they may be, can come and go. They rise and fall with the seasons of life. They change with circumstances, but purpose is steady. Purpose is enduring. Purpose is the reason God puts two people together in the first place. If you build only on feelings, you will fall when the storm comes. But if you build on purpose, the storms may shake you, but they won't break you. Feelings are important, of course. God designed us with emotions, and there is beauty in attraction, in romance, in excitement. But feelings cannot be the foundation. Feelings are the fire, but purpose is the wood that keeps the fire burning. Without purpose, passion fizzles out. Without purpose, attraction fades. Without purpose, a relationship becomes a cycle of highs and lows, chasing moments instead of building something meaningful. That's why God is intentional about who He aligns you with. He doesn't just send you someone to make you feel good. He sends you someone who makes you become good, someone who strengthens your faith, someone who reminds you of His promises when you feel weak, someone who pushes you towards your calling when you'd rather quit. Because a loving relationship in God's design is not just about two people loving each other. It's about two people walking in purpose together. Think about it. Every great love story God ordains has purpose woven into it. It's not just about companionship. It's about assignment. It's not just about comfort. It's about calling. The person God aligns you with is not just there to hold your hand, but to hold you accountable. Not just there to love you, but to challenge you. Not just there to make you happy, but to make you holy, to grow you into the person God has called you to be. That's why some relationships, no matter how much you felt, never worked out, because feelings weren't enough. There was no shared vision, no shared faith, no shared purpose. You were walking in one direction and they were walking in another. And God, in His grace, didn't let it last because He knew it would pull you off course. He knew that if He allowed you to settle for feelings without purpose, you would miss out on the future He designed for you. And maybe you've been there, you felt in love, but you weren't aligned. You had chemistry, but not commitment. You had attraction, but not vision. And when it ended, you were heartbroken. But looking back, can't you see it now? Can't you see that God saved you from building your life on something that could never carry the weight of His plan for you? He was protecting you because He knew purpose matters more than feelings. Purpose doesn't mean the relationship won't be fun or romantic. It doesn't mean you won't laugh, won't enjoy, won't celebrate together. But it means that underneath all of that, there is something solid holding you together. Purpose is what keeps you united when you're tired. Purpose is what keeps you moving forward when life gets hard. Purpose is what makes you say, we're not just in this for us, we're in this for what God wants to do through us. And maybe right now you're still learning to shift your perspective from feelings to purpose. Maybe you've been praying for someone who excites you, who makes you feel alive, who gives you butterflies. But can I encourage you to pray deeper? Pray for someone who doesn't just stir your emotions, but strengthens your spirit. Pray for someone who doesn't just give you butterflies, but gives you vision. Pray for someone who doesn't just make you feel loved, but pushes you to love God more. That's alignment. That's purpose. Because when God aligns you with the right person, you won't just feel loved, you'll feel called. You'll know that your relationship is not just about you, but about something greater than you. And when the feelings shift, as they sometimes will, purpose will keep you steady. Purpose will remind you why you started. Purpose will keep you together when others fall apart. So don't settle for just feelings. Feelings fade. Feelings change. Feelings can mislead. But purpose will hold. Purpose will guide. Purpose will carry you. And when love is built on purpose, it will last. And you'll realize that when God aligns you with someone, it's not just because of how they make you feel, it's because of what you're called to build together. When God is aligning you for a loving relationship, one thing you have to be ready for is that counterfeits will show up. The enemy doesn't want you walking into alignment. He doesn't want you experiencing the peace and purpose of a God-ordained love. So what does he do? He sends distractions. He sends almost right situations. He sends people who look good on the outside but lack the substance on the inside. He sends connections that stir your emotions but starve your spirit. And if you're not discerning, you'll settle for a counterfeit instead of waiting for God's best. The thing about counterfeits is that they often come close enough to look real. They mimic some of the qualities you've been praying for. They say the right things. They may even appear committed at first. But the deeper you go, the more you realize that something is missing. Something feels off. They can't sustain what they started. They don't have the character to back up their charm. They don't have the consistency to support the connection. And eventually the cracks begin to show. But here's where it gets tricky. Counterfeits appeal to our impatience. They show up when you're tired of waiting. They show up when you feel lonely. They show up when you're doubting if God will ever bring the right one. And in that vulnerable place, it's easy to mistake a counterfeit for the real thing. It's easy to convince yourself maybe this is it. Maybe this is as good as it gets. And so many people settle for less than God's best, not because they didn't have faith, but because they got weary in the waiting. That's why discernment is so important, because not every opportunity is a blessing and not every relationship is from God. Sometimes it's a distraction designed to delay you, to drain you, or to detour you from the alignment God is preparing. And the way you recognize the difference is by testing the fruit. Does the connection bring peace or does it bring confusion? Does it draw you closer to God or pull you away from Him? Does it make you feel valued or does it leave you questioning your worth? The answers to those questions will tell you if it's the real thing or just a counterfeit. And let's be honest, sometimes the counterfeit feels easier because the real thing requires patience. The real thing requires preparation. The real thing requires trust in God's timing. The counterfeit, on the other hand, is immediate. It's right here, right now. It offers comfort without commitment, attention without intention, companionship without covenant. But here's the danger. What comes easy often doesn't last. And if you grab the counterfeit, you may miss the authentic. The enemy has always been in the business of counterfeits. From the very beginning, he twisted truth just enough to deceive. He offers quick fixes for deep desires. He knows you long for love, so he offers attention. He knows you long for companionship, so he offers convenience. He knows you long for intimacy, so he offers imitation. But God's love is not imitation. It is genuine. It is lasting. It is purposeful. And when he aligns you with someone, you won't have to keep guessing. Maybe you've dealt with counterfeits before. Maybe you poured yourself into someone who promised forever but couldn't even handle tomorrow. Maybe you believed in someone's words only to watch their actions betray you. Maybe you settled for attention when what you really needed was intention. And now maybe you feel frustrated, even guarded. But don't let the counterfeits make you bitter. Let them make you wiser. Let them sharpen your discernment. Let them remind you that if something doesn't align with your purpose, it doesn't belong in your future. And here's the good news. Counterfeits cannot cancel God's plan. They may delay you, they may distract you, but they cannot destroy what God has ordained. The moment you recognize them for what they are and release them, God can continue aligning you for the real thing. And when the real thing shows up, you'll know the difference. You'll know because it won't just check some boxes. It will bring peace, purpose, and consistency. You'll know because it won't drain you. It will grow you. You'll know because it won't just speak love, it will live love. So don't be discouraged when counterfeits appear. Take it as a sign that you're close. Take it as proof that the enemy sees what God is preparing. Take it as confirmation that your waiting is not in vain, because counterfeits only show up when the real thing is on the way. And when you choose to wait, when you choose not to settle, when you choose to trust God's timing over your feelings, you position yourself to receive what no counterfeit can imitate. So guard your heart. Stay rooted in God. Stay patient in the process. Because counterfeits may come, but they will pass. And when the right person arrives, you won't just feel a spark, you'll feel the peace of God confirming that this is alignment, this is purpose, this is love the way he designed it to be. When God is aligning you for a loving relationship, one of the most difficult yet most powerful lessons you will learn is that his timing is perfect. Not early, not late, not rushed, not delayed, perfect. And that perfection doesn't always match your schedule, doesn't always fit into your plans. Sometimes it feels like God is taking too long, like he's forgotten you, like you're waiting while everyone else is moving forward. But the truth is, God is not ignoring you. He's preparing you. He's not punishing you. He's protecting you. His timing is not random. His timing is intentional because he knows what you need and when you need it. The waiting season can be one of the hardest seasons in your life, especially when your heart is longing for love, when you're tired of being alone, when you're watching others enter into relationships and marriages. The temptation is to believe that God has overlooked you, or worse, that you're not worthy of the love you desire. But you must understand something. Delay is not denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen. It simply means the timing isn't right, and God loves you too much to let you walk into something prematurely. Think about it. If God gave you what you were praying for before you were ready, would you be able to handle it? If he sent the right person before you had healed, before you had matured, before you had discovered your own worth, would you be able to sustain the relationship? Love requires preparation. Alignment requires growth. And so God, in his wisdom, waits until both you and the one he's preparing for you are ready to meet in purpose. And sometimes the waiting is not just about you, it's about them too. They may be in a season of becoming, of healing, of aligning with God's plan for their own life. And if God brought you together too soon, the relationship might collapse under the weight of unprepared hearts. But when the time is right, when both of you have walked through the lessons, when both of you have surrendered to God's process, the connection will not just happen, it will flourish. God's timing is perfect because he sees the whole picture. You see the moment, he sees eternity. You see loneliness, he sees growth. You see delay, he sees protection. You see waiting as wasted time. He sees waiting as preparation. And when you trust his timing, you begin to realize that nothing you've gone through, nothing you've waited for, nothing you've endured has been in vain. Every moment was shaping you for what's coming. And let's be honest, sometimes we think we're ready when we're not. Sometimes we want the blessing, but don't want the responsibility that comes with it. Sometimes we want the relationship, but aren't willing to do the inner work to be whole, healthy, and healed. And God, in his love, won't give us something that will destroy us. He waits until we're ready to carry it. He waits until we're mature enough to steward it. He waits until his plan and our preparation intersect. That's when timing becomes perfect. Maybe right now you're in that season of waiting and it feels unbearable. You're asking, when God, how long do I have to wait? And the answer is this: as long as it takes for his plan to come together, as long as it takes for him to align you with the right person at the right time for the right purpose. Because rushing will only lead to regret. Settling will only lead to heartbreak. But waiting on God's timing will lead to peace, fulfillment, and love that lasts. The enemy will try to use waiting to discourage you. He'll whisper lies. You're behind. You're forgotten. It's never going to happen. But don't believe the lies. God has not forgotten you. He has not overlooked you. He is working behind the scenes, orchestrating details you cannot see, aligning paths you don't even know about. And one day, suddenly, the wait will be over. Suddenly, the prayers will be answered. Suddenly, the timing will be right. And when it happens, you'll look back and realize it was worth every second of waiting. Because here's the truth: when it's God's timing, you won't have to force it. You won't have to chase it. You won't have to manipulate it. It will flow. It will align. It will feel like peace. And you'll understand why it couldn't happen sooner, why the delays were necessary, why the waiting had purpose. His timing is perfect, and when love comes in his time, it will not just meet your expectations, it will exceed them. So don't despise the waiting. Don't compare your timeline to someone else's. Don't rush what God is still writing. Trust his timing. Trust his wisdom. Trust his love for you. Because his plan is good, his promises are sure, and his timing. And when the moment finally comes, you will not only thank him for the blessing, you will thank him for the wait.